Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about getting out of programming. So let's get into it. So the question in question is, Frederick, I am a software engineer in my mid 40s and I want to get out of the software development field because competition has become too extreme. What choices do I have? Well, this is where you get to figure out if your mama raised you correctly, if your mama raised you right. Because if your mama raised you right, she should have told you that in order to be a good father or mother or a person of age and distinction, you need to have experience. You should live your life. You should live it well. And if you've been living your life well, you should now have some very nice and useful lessons to bestow on the younger generation. So if you're living everything, if you're doing all the things right, you should now have arrived at a point in your life where if you have a conversation with a 20-something developer or a 30-something in some cases, you should be able to give them some perspectives and give them some guidance in their value system or their way of thinking or things like that. And if you can, with certainty, say that yes, I identify with this sort of person, I think I have a few lessons that I can give people, some tricks and experiences that I've picked up in my long career or my, well, being the middle-aged man or woman, I don't know what you are, or if you're a basketball, that you identify as, uh, then you are in a very good position to becoming a manager or becoming a tech lead or basically anything where your experience in the field is more valuable. Now, these are the sorts of roles that you see people like, say, Martin Fowler and Uncle Bob and similar sort of characters. Like, they are, of course, on the higher end of this, which is exactly the sort of role that they take on. You become an evangelist, you become a person of experience that we should listen to because you have a lot of useful insights. You become a leader of programmers as opposed to just being another programmer. And though I would say that that is probably one of your best options, and because you're still young enough that this is a very feasible it's a very feasible thing for you to achieve, assuming of course that you actually have the experience to do all of this stuff. Now the thing here is that you're going to have to build, if you're really lucky, you can actually start applying immediately and having talks to, in many cases it's going to be bigger corporations, but even small companies and startups are looking for at least a few, like the amount of jobs available to someone in that role is much smaller. I mean, usually the bulk hires are in developers because they are the engine that drives everything. They're the ones who are like producing all the code, so that's the most amount of jobs that you will find. And if you want to go higher, usually there are fewer jobs and you have to prove yourself in a different way than a software developer does. I think it's actually hilarious because a lot of junior developers, they complain on how outlandish the requirements are on the role as a software developer. Guys, try to become a CTO. Just try it. Let's see what you think about that. Because then you don't just have to be a master of a lot of well, I'm not necessarily a CTO, but if you go higher up, you might actually have to not only be a master of code or someone with a lot of experience, you actually also have to have personality traits and like you can basically be rejected by the rule of thumb is usually the higher up you get, the more subjective your hiring process is going to look. You can, if you hire a PO or anything, it's like hiring a nanny. I can just not like your hair and you're not going to get the job. And you can feel that that is as unfair as you want, but at the end of the day, the managers, they are usually hired one part on experience and so forth, but a lot of it is personal aptitude and like fit in the company, and that is, and some companies are very like they don't value that all that much, but most companies will think of that as like one off, if not the most important thing. And you can basically just be not, you can practically never get to that level just because you're not the right type of person. Nobody wants to hire you because you're not the thing they're looking for. It's like being an actor. Doesn't matter if you have all the education and you're like the best actor who ever lived. If they don't like you, they don't like you. And so I think that this is one of your best options right now, where you can start to move up a little bit. If you don't have the ability to do so, you can, I mean, since you don't want to be in, the competition is going to still be there, but you can start your own company as well. If you have a problem finding work in a already established IT company, starting your own consultancy or doing freelance work is absolutely an option, because the demand for software developers is pretty much, it exists at all levels of company sizes. So that's something you can do. Lastly, I also recommend having a talk with recruiters. Now, usually they are the scum of the earth, but one thing that they are very, very good at is to know what companies are looking for. And if you go and talk to a recruiter who is actually a human being, they are going, first and foremost, they're going to be very interested in talking to you, most likely because you're a potential client. And then you can ask, okay, this is my profile. I've been working for this long amount of time. I know these things. Do you know, like, what are people looking for? And most likely they're going to tell you that, well, for a standard software development job, since you're not interested in that, that's fine. You're going to have to be this and that type of person. Usually I recruit these types of people for those types of companies. But someone with your profile, who has more experience and you want to look into this and that, then you can talk to them about what your preferences are, and then you might be able to get some guidance. Even if that recruiter can't help you, you're still going to get some guidance in, okay, what type of roles could I be a possible good fit for at my age and my experience level. So what I want you to take away from this is that if you're in your mid 40s, congratulations, you have now, if you've been living right and your mama raised you right, reached a point where you're now ready to bestow knowledge on lesser experienced programmers. And if you've been doing all these things right, you should have some very valuable lessons to teach. And that means that you should ideally start looking to move up, to not just do the coding anymore, to actually manage the people who are going to do the coding. And roles such as tech leads or CTOs or architects or community managers, there are tons and tons of different roles that are related to the engineering department, and where experience is actually more valuable in many cases. I mean, you need to have personal aptitude as well, but it's more valuable than just youth, because youth isn't the only thing that people care about. Experience is definitely a factor. And you should know, on the other hand, that becoming a manager is a lot about personal aptitude. In many cases, just having experience is not enough. You actually have to be the sort of person the company wants to hire to manage their developers. And if you simply find that it's too hard, that your personality isn't really that of a manager, then I suggest that you look into maybe starting your own company, your own freelancing thing, or a small consultancy or something like that, because you should have the experience to be able to do this by now. And lastly, if that is not feasible to you, go and talk to a few of the recruiters and just talk to them. Find someone you like, find someone who seems to be open to having a dialogue with you. They most likely will look at you as a client, and treat them a little bit like an agent for like a movie star or something like that. Just talk to them and see what options would you say that I have, and get some guidance in what type of roles would suit someone of your age and your profile. Have a great day.